From choose-your-own-adventure games to Dungeons & Dragons to fully immersive RPG experiences, having player input in the form of choices adds an interesting discussion piece to a game, as well as making it nicely replayable. The most famous examples of gaming narratives with real weight to your choices include BioWare's spectacular Mass Effect 2, Quantic Dream's Beyond Two Souls, and Detroit Become Human. A single lapse in attention could potentially lead to an NPC storyline being cut short, budding romance being snuffed out, or even companions dying. Then there are the games that try and imitate the same feeling of granting you control over a huge fork in the narrative, only for you to then realize that your choices didn't actually affect the ending whatsoever. The illusion of choice can often leave you feeling kind of cheated. Sometimes a specific outcome leads to the opposite actually occurring. Other times, a huge moral decision leaves you screwed either way. You just can't win at these games. And yes, there will be spoilers, so these games are best experienced firsthand, so anything you haven't played, be sure to check the time codes below. My name is Rach, and welcome back to WhatCulture Gaming. These are 8 meaningful video game choices that didn't actually mean anything. Number 8. Firewatch. Romance? Firewatch is an emotional journey, a walking simulator presenting you with some simple dialogue choices throughout. It puts you in the role of Henry, whose wife is suffering from early onset dementia. He heads deep into the forest to take some time to himself, as he reflects in seclusion as a fire warden living in a tower. When you are introduced to Delilah over the radio, who is very openly flirty with you, you will have to make decisions on how to respond to her dialogue, either leading her on and flirting back, or spurning her advances and keeping your poor sick wife in mind instead. All the way through this short game, you're expecting it to culminate in a final choice. Will we leave our wife in pursuit of this healthy, new, interesting woman? A terrible fire breaks out and you will have to make a final decision. Perhaps you choose to beg Delilah to wait for you so the two of you can escape in helicopters together. But no matter what you choose, when you arrive at Delilah's tower, she has already left, and you never have the chance to meet her no matter how close the two of you became throughout the game. Number 7. Wolfenstein: The New Order. Purity Test. Dealing with Nazis while undercover is always a tense situation. Look at Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, or the bar scene in Inglourious Basterds. Well, ladies and gentlemen, experience that same chilling fear for yourself while playing Wolfenstein: The New Order while aboard a train traveling to Berlin. In the middle of the night, trying to lay low, BJ makes himself some coffee, but is trapped in the carriage with Frau Engel. Forced to play along, we are subjected to a high-stakes test where we are to try and prove our allegiance to this terrifyingly evil commander. She places her gun on the table, fully cocked and loaded, and warns you not to reach for it, although you do have the option to do so. She then begins to place 2 seemingly important photographs before you and tells you to choose between them. If you choose wrong, and it turns out you are of what she deems impure blood, then she will shoot you. Well, what excites me the most? Well, eyes or a mouth? I don't know. Context is everything, but, the eyes, I guess? The questions all seem meaningless, and players will be terrified trying to make the correct choice. But as it turns out, there was no correct choice, or wrong choice for that matter. The whole thing is just one big sadistic joke, and Frau Engel takes great pleasure in torturing you through it. Bitch. Number 6. Deadly Premonition. Final Gunpoint. Deadly Premonition may be one of the most bizarre games to have ever existed. You play as an FBI special agent called York, who is investigating a murder case. Supernatural strangeness is afoot, and your lady friend Emily has wound up with a big painful tree sprouting out of her stomach. She urges you to kill her, as we both know she is bound for death either way. However, the game offers you with a choice. You can choose to point the gun at poor Emily to put her out of her misery, or you can choose to aim the gun at the gloating Kaysen. He doesn't deserve to live after all the evil he has caused for you and the ones you love. There is also a third option, which is turning the gun on yourself, but I mean, why would you pick that, right? Is it reverse psychology? Do I shoot myself? However, choosing anything other than aiming at Emily results in a game over, with the game forcing you to rethink your actions and try again, making the choice into nothing more than a simple, meaningless formality. Number 5. The Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Kicking Ravio out. Link Between Worlds opens with Link experiencing defeat. When he wakes up, he finds himself face to face with a person in a pink rabbit costume. This is Ravio, who gets us back on our feet and eventually becomes very useful indeed. However, at this early stage of the game, he's just weird, kinda annoying, and also incredibly presumptuous. He straight up asks if he can stay in your house while you're off out adventuring, making himself at home. Those who did not immediately trust the giant rabbit and answered "no way" to his highly inappropriate request will then see Ravio reduced to begging, groveling on the floor, bowing at your feet. Refusing him once more will then present you with 2 final choices. One is of course, and the other if you insist. What kind of choice is that? Yes or yes? Why even pose it as a question in the first place? Number 4. Telltale's Game of Thrones: Thwarting Ramsay Snow. Even players who have never seen the TV show tie-in will instantly dislike Ramsay Snow. In short, he is a prime asshole with a side of dickhead with a sprinkling of on top. Frankly, that is putting it kindly. Ramsay is the main antagonist throughout the game, constantly berating the Forrester family, crushing their spirits under his boot. Everyone is terrified of him, and with good reason. The man enjoys flaying people alive and hunting women for sport. When Ramsay shows up at Ironrath to ensure the loyalty of House Forrester, you will have the choice of whether to openly welcome him in or to resist and be hostile towards him. When Ramsay takes a liking to your protagonist Lord Ethan's sister Talia, you have the choice to object and stand up to Ramsay or let him be. However, this decision and all other decisions before it are immediately rendered moot when Ramsay brutally stabs Ethan through the neck, deciding he is too much trouble. No matter how you handled every choice up till now, Ethan will die either way, making the whole thing all rather embarrassing if you did choose to bow at that sick asshole's feet. Number 3. Xenoblade Chronicles X: Joining the Blades. Builders of the Legacy After the Destruction of Earth, or Blade, is a private military organization in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Cross was awakened at the start of the game by one of the Blades, Elma, essentially owing her his life. Later on, the Secretary of Defense encourages Cross to join this very same organization. The thing is, we don't really know anything about them. They could be evil for all we know, aiming to take over the planet and use us as a means to do it. So perhaps we don't agree right away and politely refuse the offer of joining up with them. And cue the guilt show. Oh, but without the blades, you would have been asleep for eternity. Oh, good thing those handy-dandy blades were there to save you. You wouldn't want to refuse the people who saved your life, would you, friend? No, I'm good. Refuse once again, and suddenly not refusing turns your negative somehow into a positive and forces you into a corner where the only option is to accept, lest you want to watch the same scene play out again and again with the same questions. Honestly, I suppose you have to admire his persistence. Number 2. Telltale's The Walking Dead Season 1: Lee's Adam. Telltale games were notorious, oh god, that past tense really hurts to say, for including countless instances of the illusion of choice in their famously decision-heavy story games. The Walking Dead Season 1 has by far the most examples of choices that at first appear to be hugely meaningful, but always turn out the same way in the end. For example, deciding whether to save Doug or Carly from their death in the drugstore simply condemns the surviving party to be shot later on by the manic Lily. One particular choice late on in the game feels especially insulting. In episode 4, Lee is bitten on the wrist by a walker. You can choose whether to cut off his arm or not, in the hopes that it will slow the infection and allow them more time to rescue young Clementine. Choosing to go through with the procedure only heightens Lee's suffering, however, as he succumbs to the infection at the same point in the game regardless. The only choice that does matter, in the end, is whether you left Lee chained to the radiator to inevitably turn, or spared him of a painful slow death by choosing to let a 10-year-old girl shoot her beloved guardian. Number 1. Until Dawn. Saving Josh. Perhaps one of the saddest characters in horror, Josh Washington has been suffering from depression since the age of 11, and then with the disappearance of his sisters at the start of the game, develops psychosis from schizophrenia. Depending on how well you have explored throughout the game, you will have been able to put all the clues together and discover that the Wendigo stalking the group has been Josh's missing sister Hannah this whole time. Near the end of the game, in an underground lake in the mountain caverns, Josh will encounter Hannah. If you missed the clues, she will kill him instantly by crushing his skull. Should you play throughout the game perfectly, rescuing each and every character, including Josh from the lake, every single one of the group will be seen safe and sound, giving traumatized interviews to the police. All except for Josh, who has a complete mental breakdown from the isolation down in the caves and succumbs to the Wendigo spirit himself. No matter your choices throughout the game, it will always conclude with Josh's demise, whether his head is crushed or his spirit cursed. It's completely unfair and utterly tragic that the one person who had suffered the most throughout the game is the one person that cannot be saved, no matter how hard you try. There we have it, folks. That was our list. Any of these feel especially cheated to you? Please let us know in the comments below. Once again, my name has been Rach. If you like, you can follow me on Twitter at Don'tRageQuit. Subscribe to WhatCulture Gaming for lists like this every single day. Take care of yourself, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.